Do you hate the thought of working past 55 or 60? Do you hate not being able to live the life you deserve today? Do you hate not knowing what your financial future looks like? It's time to stop doing what you hate. Here's your host, Mr. Harold Green.
Hello, everybody. This is Harold Green of Braintree Financial Group, and it is time to stop doing what you hate. How are you doing today? Hope everything has been well for you and your family. I'm having a decent day, still pretty early here, but life has been very interesting. Before I get into the show, I want to talk to you a little bit about some things that are going on with me personally. As many of you know, I made the big decision to move my company out to Nevada area from Hawaii. We were in Hawaii for a long time. And the funny thing is I was talking to my wife the other day, and we're hiking. We're hiking up a mountain, and or up like in a hiking area, and pretty far back there. So I was like, wow, we got up there to we're kind of high up, and I said, this is cool. I said, the only thing we're missing now is the ocean. And I said, funny thing is I kind of miss the ocean, but I don't really miss it a lot. Because when the kids grew up, we never really went to the beach all that much because we're all so busy working. And, a lot of people think, when you're in Hawaii, you just kind of like sit by the beach and drink coconut juice and pineapple juice all day and just kind of chill out. But people work, I know people that are so busy, they barely have time to breathe. And so, you get busy with family, you get busy with work, you get busy with a lot of different things, and you don't really get to enjoy the beauty of the place. And so I really appreciate being there. We do go back there periodically and, meet clients and take care of business, but it's just different. So I really like hiking up here. It's good exercise. It's good for your health. For me, it's not going to take the place of golf. It's just an addition to it. And I found myself thinking a little differently, because when you do different activities, what it does is it opens up different pathways in your brain, and you begin to see things from a very different perspective, right? And so golf is one thing, but hiking is something different. You're stepping over rocks and you're climbing on top of things and using the stabilizer muscles in your body. Just all different kinds of things take place. So, I would just encourage you and to just go out and do something different. But the one thing I miss about the ocean was the fact that I would get up early in the morning, like 3-4 o'clock, and I would go out there. And I would open up the trunk of my car, the hatch of my SUV, and I would sit in the back and just sit out there with a cup of coffee and just pray and just enjoy what I saw. And then just kind of ask the Lord to like show me things and maybe things that I'm missing. I just quiet time. And so along with your activities, if you can just spend a couple of minutes meditating or just trying to dig in and figure out what's missing in life and what do you need to do in order to move the needle forward. And so I want to get into today's show. The title is to hire a professional or not, to hire or not to hire a professional. And this is important to me because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding around the whole thing about who are you working with? Are you working with somebody or not? Are you paying fees? How much are you paying? I mean, a lot of it is complete and utter nonsense. So I want to break it down to you and let you know who should hire a professional or not. So, are you ready? 1, 2, 3, let's get it. All right. So, like I said, today's show is going to help you decide whether you should be working with somebody or not. Also, we're going to determine whether or not you need a financial planner, a money manager, or just a money manager, or neither. They're different people. Financial planners do different things. Money managers do different things. If you merge them together, they can do a combination of everything like a Swiss Army knife. It just kind of depends on what you're looking for. But before engaging with anyone, you must, and I'm going to tell you this straight up, you must have a clear-cut objective that you are trying to accomplish. Otherwise, it's going to be an utter disaster. For example, can you create a plan that would allow me to, one, I'd like to retire in X number of years at X age. Number two, I'd like to help my kids pay X for college. You got to be specific. You can't go in there with fairy tales. You got to be very specific, and these things have to be thought out. I'd like to give more or invest more into my community. I'd like to build another home in a different country or state. I'd like to fund and build another company. You have to be specific, because if you have no idea what you want, then you have to go through the process of hiring a professional who can help you come up with one. And when people come and see me, these are some of the things or some of the exact questions that we discuss about their goals. And so I say, let's play this out. All right. One of the first questions I ask is, what are your thoughts on money and investing? Another question is, how has that been for you over the past 15 years? What has been your experience? And then how much time and attention are you able to give to your finances on a weekly basis? These things are important. The reason why I ask these questions is because based on how they're thinking, it's going to tell me whether or not they're going to be able to accomplish their goals. Because sometimes I tell you straight up, their thinking does not line up with what their goals are. They don't have the mindset of a person that can accomplish these things. So I can tell you from the very beginning whether or not you're doomed to failure. I used to be really bad at it. I'll be honest with you, I used to be really bad at it because anyone who came in and sat down in front of me and they had money and they said, "Hey, I want to do this. I want to accomplish this." And because they had money, I felt like, man, with my skills and their resources, we can do some pretty amazing things. What was lacking was their financial, emotional quotient was way off. And I'll tell you what I mean by that in a little bit. Just based on how they were answering those questions, if I would have took a little bit more time and dug down a little bit deeper, I would have known that I was setting both of us up for failure. I would have known if I was going to make somebody hate me or not once they got involved. I would have known that. Now I'm much better at doing that. And so I'm very limited in who I take on as clients. I just don't take on anybody. Okay. Now, these questions are important because it really doesn't matter how much money you have or make. All right. It doesn't matter because it's the process of understanding your situation. It's the same for everybody due to the fact that we're humans and we're subject to the emotions that humans possess: fear, anger, love, sadness, right? You can't say, oh, okay, I have my feelings in check. Yeah, you may have them in check for a little bit, but as soon as something happens that's crazy, we'll see, right? I find too often that people are emotionally tied to their money. And somebody used to tell me before, the richer people are, the worse it gets. I don't think that to be true. It depends on the person. Now, I'll give you an example. If the market is up that day, some of these people are super happy. If it's down that day, life is over as we know it, and the world is going to end. If the spouse spends a little bit too much money, then it's a crisis. If the kids need something, just an extra $10, just because the market was down. You got to put this stuff in perspective. The main thing we have to understand prior to setting our goals is we have to figure out the emotional quotient. We got to figure out what our temperament is. And that's very important. All right. I do that by understanding what's important to you about the things that you tell me. I don't care what you say. I want to know about what you're saying and why you're saying it. Like, for example, I'd like to retire in X number of years at age X. I'd like to retire, in 5 years at 60. Why do you want to retire in 5 years at 60? What's so important to you about that? Well, I have more time for myself. Well, what does that mean? You have to justify these things. Do you hate something about your job? Is it for a better quality of life? Will you get bored? One of the things I tell my clients, and I help a lot of people retire early. One of the things I tell them is just because you have time on your hands doesn't mean you get to sit down and scrutinize every trade I make. You have time on your hands, you watch the market, you have nothing to do. So you're constantly looking at trades, wondering why I'm doing it. Call it nope, 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 no. Those are grounds to be fired. I'll tell you that straight up. If I help you retire early and you're constantly calling me, asking me why I'm making certain trades, you're getting fired. I'm going to put that out there. All right. Go find something else to do. We got to make sure you're retiring for the right reasons. How will you fill your time? How will your spouse react to you not getting up when they have to? That's a big one. I've heard someone said something like, man, it's hard because I got to get up every day and go to work. And now they're just chilling. They're just chilling. They're just laying there chilling and like sleeping. And I got to get up. Look, that's very important. Do you want to retire with your spouse, before your spouse, or after your spouse? Those things are very important. How will you find meaning in your life if your job was really the only thing that kept you going? Why am I saying this? I'm trying to help you understand whether or not you need someone or not. Because if you got this stuff figured out, you'll be able to understand at the end of this conversation what you need to do. You and I both have to understand what it really is that you're after, because things and circumstances will change on you. And we have to make sure you're after what you're after for all the right reasons. Okay. I've had people tell me they want to do this and they want to be able to do that. And I put them on the path to doing so. And then when things don't go well, it's a little harder than they thought. They quit, they give up, they run because they weren't really cut out for that. All right. Now, one of the things this does is it allows me to make trades and help manage your money with clear cut objective of what's needed. That's important. This is going to help us keep the emotional side from ruining everything. Time and time again, I've seen the emotional side tear everything apart. For example, if the market is down, it helps me understand what to get out of and into to get your portfolio back up. Also, it will help me remind you of what it is that you're after and the time frame we have to achieve it. These are all important things. For example, let's say you come to me and your main objective is to retire in 10 years with $1.5 million. Doesn't seem like a lot of money, but for some it is. And right now you got $500,000. You're probably going to need to earn at least 10% a year. How do you determine if that's even doable for you? Number one, we have to understand your risk tolerance and your financial emotion. Do you run hot at the first sign of trouble, or are you calm and understand that markets can be volatile? Now, all investments do carry risk of loss. Before investing any money, you have to understand your risk tolerance, your time horizons, and your objectives, right? Past performance is no indicator of future results. What am I getting at? What I'm getting at is you need to be at a risk tolerance of moderate to moderate aggressive to get to 1.5 million in 10 years. Then we have to build an investment strategy around that. Is it a buy and hold strategy, or is it an active money management strategy? Well, what's the difference between the two? All right. Buy and hold is picking stocks and holding them and then adding to them when they are down. It's like, sorry, but I just had a flashback to when I was a kid and I was sick. And I was partially raised by my grandma. And if you were raised in the South, you know that grandmas love their grandbabies. And grandmas will do anything to make the grandbabies better, whether you like it or not. So my grandma used to give me cod liver oil, and it was some nasty stuff. And she would say, "Hold your nose, hold your nose." She would pinch my nose and just like let it run down my throat. Right? That's what it's like buying stocks when they're bleeding to death and nobody wants them. Right? That's what it's like. It's hard. It's painful. That's what it is. But now with this strategy, here's the difference. You need to buy and hold low beta stocks. Low beta stocks are less volatile than high beta stocks. You can look up what beta means and then compare the low beta stocks with the high beta stocks. But here's what happened over the last 10 years from 0820 to 2023 to just going to give you from August of 2023 going back to August of 2013, 10 years. Tractor Supply, the ticker is TSCO. They did, I think it was what, 26%. United Health, they did 50%. Katera Energy, negative 28.49%. These are all low beta stocks. These are the things where you hear guys on TV say stuff like, "Oh, you got to get out of technology and go to low beta stocks and go to value stocks." I mean, that pay a dividend, yes, but see, here's the thing: none of that advice aligns with what you just said. I want to retire in 5 years at 60. How is this going to help you do that? This is very important to understand that. That's the question that you have to ask yourself when you're making these trades. How is running away from technology going to help me get to my goal in 5 years at age 60 by getting out of tech and buying low beta? Make sure you understand that. What's high beta? Apple, Microsoft, Tesla. What did they do over the same period of time? Apple, it broke off 875% return. Microsoft broke off 810% return. Tesla broke them off 1,800% return. Here's the thing with active money management. It buys and sells a variety of low beta and high beta to work towards your objectives, but the strategy may be more volatile than buy and hold, depending on the investment choices at any given time. Also, active money management may include options trading depending on your level of risk. These are all important things to know. Now, if you absolutely know what your financial objectives are and you have the following in your tool belt, I think you can make this work. What are the tools? Number one, desire. Do you really want it? Do you need it? Do you, as they say, gotta have it? Number two, interest. Are you interested in it? Some people have absolutely no interest in their finances at all, other than the fact that how much can they spend? Number three, acumen, intellect. Sometimes it's like talent. Four, time for research. As I said earlier, how much time do you have to give to investing in this on a weekly basis? Sometimes it's a daily basis. Number five, money for research tools, right? Can you afford the subscriptions out there? And then also, how good are the subscriptions that you get? Is it regurgitated information? Or is it just somebody's opinions, thoughts, feelings that you're looking at? Is it actual data, right? Is it non-biased data, right? What are you getting? And then number six, financial emotional stability. Can you handle the ups and downs, right? Like if you lose 100 grand this year, is it going to ruin everything for you? Now, if you have all of these in spades, or, at least some of them anyway, I would say a good portion of it, then you don't need a financial planner or money manager. No, I'm going to take that back. You need to have all six of these. How much of these you have, it's a different story, right? But you need to have all six of these. You can't say, well, I got everything except time for research. No, no, no. You need all of that. Okay. But if you have it all, you don't need a financial planner or money manager. However, you're going to need a good CPA, an insurance agent, an estate planning attorney. And we can talk more about that later in a different conversation. But those are what you're going to need. Now, if you absolutely know that what your financial objectives are, and you don't have all six of these: desire, interest, acumen, time for research, money for research tools, financial emotional stability, then you need an active money manager. And I'll get into that in a second. The other alternative is to buy and hold mutual funds, but you're going to need a lot more capital to get started. If your goal is 1.5 million in 10 years, you need a lot more money. The only guaranteed way to get there is to save 100,000 per year after taxes in a safe. However, you're going to have to adjust for inflation. So that would be about 110K per year after taxes in a safe. In a safe. Okay. That's guaranteed. All right. Not even in the bank, in a safe. Make sure you have the combination and you hide it in 3 or 4 different places. But I'd say in a safe. That's the only guaranteed way. Now, here's what I didn't share. Okay. If you add to your $100,000, that's probably what you're going to have to start with. $100,000, $500,000 on a consistent basis, then you may not need 10% per year. So mutual funds might work for you. Now, you're going to need to figure out your rate of return adjusted for inflation and proceed with your strategy from there. Now, you got to pay attention to the fees that are in these funds, whether they're index funds or regular mutual funds. You got to understand who the money managers are and their track record. And you got to understand whether or not you're holding 10 mutual funds with the top 10 holdings being all the same or too similar. That's very important. But we really need to talk about something here. And that's going to help you regardless of which route you take. I'd like to talk about the financial emotional stability and why that's so important. It's the number one reason why some individual investors don't achieve what they set out to. I've had countless times where I've had to convince people to stay the course. Ooh, sometimes I was successful and other times not so much. It's kind of like, it's kind of like being a preacher and having to preach the gospel or something, or you're trying to convince people that what they're doing is the right thing, and you're constantly trying to encourage people or resell the idea of the goal, and it's like, well, didn't you say you want to accomplish this, and or didn't you say you wanted to achieve that? Well, this is pretty much your best shot based on the tools that you have in your tool belt, right? You have to understand you're not everybody else. Your situation is unique, and this may be the route you have to take. But can you emotionally handle it? If not, give up already. Give up on the goals. Set different ones, right? These things are very important. And it's what bothers me the most when people say, yeah, I want to have wealth. I want to do this. I want to do that. Do you know what that means? It's very important. Now, one of the biggest benefits, I think, with working with someone is they act as a shield, protecting you from your emotions. Why? Because they possess all the qualities needed to do the work that it takes. And they have information that you don't have access to. Like, for example, who's buying and selling what, and most likely the reasons why. If you don't possess the 6 items needed, then most likely you're making your decisions on partial information based on something somebody said on TV, the internet, the newspaper, lunchroom, the gym, the golf course, the hair salon, or 1,000 other different places where information is available to you. And you got to remember one thing about information. Information is information, and it's not all accurate. A large part of information is opinion based these days. It's for clicks. Trust me, it's for clicks. Some of the stuff I read about certain companies, it blows your mind. I'll give you an example. Some analysts think Tesla's going to be worth over $1,000 a share someday, and some think it's going to go down to $20 a share. How do you get that? If people are being genuine and honest, shouldn't the numbers be closer together versus that far apart? I'm not going to get into that too much. Now let's talk about the fees. Many people say you should only pay 1% or less for help from a professional. Okay. That's like saying you should only pay $30,000 for a car. Who tells anybody what to do? If somebody's trying to help you achieve your goals and your objectives and you got to pay them 1.2, is that a deal breaker? Like, I'm not going to call anybody any names, so I'm going to continue to be nice today. Each professional is different, and it will be up to you to pay them for the following: desire, interest, acumen, time for research, money for research tools, financial, emotional stabilities. Those things are not free. Either you have them or somebody else does. If you had them, then you don't need to pay anybody for them because you have them. If you don't have them, then you need to pay for them, especially if you are serious about achieving your goals and your objectives. Question: how much is it worth to you if you can find somebody with all 6 of these? Also, what is the level they are at with all 6 of these, right? Time for research, or they have a team that does it with them. And the other thing is, and this is very important to me, how concerned do they seem for your overall well being? And do they really care or not if you achieve what it is that you are setting out to do? Or are they just taking your money? And then when you give up, they're on to the next customer. Do they really care about you and your family and what it is that you want? Do they really care about your life's work and your mission? Or do they just want your fees? Okay. These things are very important to me. And that's why I switched up my show a little bit. And that's why we talk about the Bible more, because it's important to me that people who say they love God understand what that requires. Okay. It's very simple. I'm not going to get into that. You can go back and listen to some of the other shows. You got to make sure that they care about you and what it is that you're trying to achieve, right? Are they emotionally invested as well? And that's why it's hard for me sometimes. I get emotionally invested when the client says they want to achieve things and then they want to give up. I take it personally. To me, that's the only way to take it is personally, right? I'm sorry, but I take some people say, it's just a job. Don't take it personal. No, this is my life. I live for this. I get up every day, right? I bleed with this. I succeed with this. I bleed with this. I succeed with this. I bleed with this. I succeed with this. That's just me. You got to decide what value you're getting from the services they are offering at their price. What are you getting for 50 basis points? Let's say they only charge you 50 basis points. That's 0.5% a year. What do you get for that? What do you get for 1%? What do you get for 2%? What do you get for 2.3%? Qualify it. Make your decision, be happy with it, and stick with it. This is what it's going to take to figure out whether or not you need to hire a financial professional. If you want to talk to me about what I do and what I charge, my number is 808-521-4401. Very simple. Talk to my assistant, Beverly. She'll get you on the schedule. We can look at everything you got, run through an assessment, an emotional assessment, a financial assessment, and see whether or not you have what it takes to achieve your goals. And I'll tell you what it's going to cost you to get there. And that's pretty much all I got for you. So hopefully you enjoyed today's show. And go back and look at some of the other ones. Last time we talked about timing the market. I talked about, what was it? I think it was, I want to say something about your money values or something like that. Go back and check out that show, because these are all good things to understand prior to you hiring somebody as well. So if you haven't hired anybody yet, just kind of go back and look through my shows and just kind of get an idea of some of the things I say. And that's very important, because it'll help you lay out your questions and then prepare them for whoever you're going to go work with. That's very important. Have your questions prepared before you go in the door. Have your list of goals prepared before you go in the door. Have your list of resources prepared before you go in the door. If you know you don't have time, make sure you understand that before you go in the door. Because once they lay it all out and you say, I don't want to pay that, I can do this myself. Take inventory. If you don't have the tools, you're not going to be able to do it yourself. Don't fool yourself. That's very important. All right. So until next time, everybody, 1, 2, 3, let's get it.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.